Footage obtained by Hayes' attorney showed the situation that quickly escalates.
Are you ready to see the tables turn on those who thought they were above the law? Get ready to witness the downfall of some corrupt cops who thought they could get away with anything. Meet James Perezzi, the cop who thought he could bully anyone. Look at this guy. He's exercising his right to free speech on the sidewalk, filming his casual walk through the city and chatting with people. Along comes Officer Perezzi, aggressively harassing him for no reason at all. The guy stands his ground, asserting his First Amendment rights, but Officer Perezzi won't let him be. Perezzi chose the wrong person to mess with, and you will soon see why. He demands the guy's name and ID, but the guy sees through the ploy and refuses.
Anything that lies spreads to level disturbing the peace.
All I did was what calls about the students, so just get back to students. And I'll talk.
Yeah, and if there's going to be a charge against me, I need to have the names of the students.
Officer Perezzi gets even more hostile, telling the guy to stop breathing in his face. Well, you approach the guy, not the other way. But the guy isn't intimidated, he knows his rights. The situation escalates as Officer Perezzi claims people have complained about the guy. He orders him to leave, but the guy asserts his right to be there. With a camera in hand, he warns the cop of potential legal consequences for obstructing his rights. That's right, educate them. As the cop insists on the guy's name, the guy questions the need for such information. Despite Officer Perezzi's claims, the guy denies harassing anyone. The cop's intimidation tactics fail as the guy stands firm. This is the power of knowing your rights in the face of corrupt authority. As the tense standoff played out, the cop, clearly feeling outmatched, insisted the guy leave, suggesting it would be best for everyone. Seizing the moment, the man pointed out the nearby security guard's failure to identify himself and demanded to know the names of those who had complained against him, should any charges arise. He made it clear that he was recording the encounter and prepared to escalate legally if necessary, though the cop seemed eager to avoid a confrontation. After a brief silence, the cop turned his attention to a group of teenagers and ordered them to leave the area.
Do not, sir. You tell me.
Because I'm trying to talk to people and you're telling me to get lost and
I
get
don't
off the
tell you to get
sidewalk.
lost.
You can say get lost.
Nobody
told
said that
me.
once.
I think you did. I can rewind the footage over
I would
here.
love for you to do that because I never said that.
Okay. You want to see what he said?
I don't care what he says, sir. I wasn't here.
Okay.
Okay, what was that again?
Anyway, I don't want to make a lawsuit out of it because
That's great. Thanks for being a team player. Appreciate it.
It seems like Officer Perezzi had one mission and one mission only, to ruin a good day for no reason. The man intervened, advising the teens to stand their ground on the public sidewalk and exercise their First Amendment rights. Despite the cops' weak attempt to suggest their presence could be considered loitering, the man confidently asserted the team's protection under the First Amendment, easily shutting down the cops' argument. Continuing to assert his rights, the man casually mentioned the potential for a lawsuit and substantial settlement if the police were found to be harassing them. He reminded the cop that any charges against him would require proper documentation, including the name of involved parties, to mount a defense. Unfazed, the man reiterated his First Amendment right to be on the sidewalk and talk to people, cautioning the cop about potential legal repercussions for the city if they violated the law. He encouraged the teens not to back down, reminding them of their constitutional rights and warning them against being misled by the police. With full confidence, he advised the teens not to be intimidated. He stated they couldn't be arrested without cause and emphasized the potential for substantial lawsuits if false arrests were made. Kudos to this man for upholding the law.
Hi kids, how you doing today? You know what this is? You know what this is? I don't think you should be trying to stand in the way of blocking my sign.
Public sidewalk, sir.
Public sidewalk. We have just as much right to be here as you do.
So what you're saying is on the government's dome, you're blocking me from my First Amendment, you're harassing me. Is that what you're doing?
I'm standing right here, sir. During the day.
Another cop approached, inquiring about his activities. The man explained that he was educating people about the Constitution and civil rights, refusing once again to disclose his name without a warrant. He then accused the officers of obstructing his First Amendment rights. When the man expressed his grievances about being told to leave, the cop denied issuing such a command, the man suggesting reviewing the footage, to which the cop reluctantly agreed. Despite the disagreement, the man emphasized he didn't want to resort to filing lawsuits. Undeterred, the man attempted to show his his sign to passerby, but the cops actively blocked the view. He then focused on educating teenagers, advising them to always have cameras to document any potential harassment by the police for simply standing on a public sidewalk. Despite the officer's attempts to block his sign, he persisted, questioning their actions and the laws they cited. When one officer mentioned a city rule limiting public gatherings, the man was puzzled and challenged by its validity. He sarcastically quipped, "Is this how the city encourages conversation?" Undeterred, he kept talking to people, educating them while standing up to the officers. He firmly defended his right to speak freely and wondered if the people were trying to silence him. He asked the officers, "Do you often stop people from expressing their opinions?" Even as the officers tried to discourage others from talking to him, the man refused to back down. Determined to exercise his rights, he joked with the officers, "Seems like you're the ones causing a scene today, trying to silence free speech. Way to show them who the real boss is, sir." In another unbelievable incident, Apopka police officer Sarah Mooney, who was 31 at the time of this incident, was arrested for driving under the influence and caught on video pushing and threatening a man after a car crash.
Accident, who's saying she's law enforcement, and she appears intoxicated. There was some sort of 22 before I got here, but as I was driving past, she was up against this SUV.
The disturbing arrest report revealed that Officer Mooney, following a collision with another vehicle, repeatedly asserted her status as a cop and threatened to engage in a physical altercation with the driver, John Caldwell. Well, here we go again, another day, another entitled cop. Orlando Police Department officers found Mooney pulled over by East Anderson Street and South Bumby Avenue around 9:20 p.m. Caldwell showed officers a video recording on his phone of Mooney's aggressive behavior. She prevented him from exiting his vehicle and even pushed him back in when he attempted to get out. Despite Caldwell's requests for her to move away, Mooney persisted, holding his door open and refusing to let him leave.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry.
Anything on you, guns or anything?
No, not at all.
Where's your actual ID?
That one.
Thank you. I'm gonna take that back. Okay, go ahead and have a seat for me really fast.
The arrest report noted that Mooney reached for her waistband at one point, raising fears that she might have been armed. Caldwell asks if she had any weapons, to which she replied no, but continued to falsely accuse Caldwell of hitting her car. Mooney's actions led to her facing serious charges, including first-degree misdemeanor, charges of driving under the influence, battery, false imprisonment, and burglary of an occupied conveyance. Clearly, she thought she was above the law. Things went downhill for Mooney after this incident. Following her arrest, the Apopka Police Department suspended Mooney from law enforcement duties without pay pending criminal proceedings, as well as an administrative review. The next confrontation is going to leave you wondering about the boundaries of authority and personal rights. In the video, we see a police officer approach a war veteran peacefully, conversing on a street corner. Suddenly, the officer's demeanor shifts, becoming physically rough and aggressive. The veteran, clearly confused, is repeatedly told to lower his voice. Why is the officer reacting this way?
What's going on with you today?
Nothing. I'm just standing on the street corner talking to this guy I just met, and all of a sudden you're pushing me down and being real physical with
Yeah,
me.
you know
And
why?
I don't understand. No, I
Okay.
don't know why.
Lower
okay?
your voice.
Well, despite the veteran's confusion, the officer persists, demanding to see ID. The veteran, still confused, refuses to calm down. The officer, asserting dominance, insists the veteran move away, accusing him of invading personal space. But is the veteran really in the wrong here? The veteran, feeling unjustly treated, asserts that the officer is abusing his authority.
I have to do
Yes,
to
I'm telling you to
command me,
voice.
Okay?
Listen to me.
Because
I'm going to
you got
tell
a
you one
tin
more time.
badge on?
I'm going
Is
to
that
tell you
what it
one more
is?
time and you're going to go to jail.
Is that right?
Lower your voice or you're going to jail.
I
Do you have ID
don't.
on you?
Huh?
Do you have ID on you, sir?
Yes, sir. I
Okay.
sure do.
People
I don't
not
like
following my own-
Nazis either. Okay. Can I show you my ID?
When you walk up to an officer and you get that close to an officer, it is not good. Why? Because now you're in my personal space.
However, the officer dismisses this, claiming the right to give orders that must be followed. When the veteran doesn't comply with the order to move away, the officer justifies pushing him, citing perceived disobedience. The officer, seemingly believing his behavior is justified, fails to realize the incident is being recorded. This video evidence reveals this unacceptable conduct. What do you think happened next? You guessed it right. He got kicked out of the force. Here, we have a South Sudanese citizen who is approached by the police, who wrongly assumes his identity.
For what? You think That's an illusion you think.
The man immediately calls out the officers for racial profiling, setting the stage for a tense confrontation. Despite his protests, the officers handcuff him, thinking they have the upper hand. The man, undeterred, insists they check his ID.
After a while, they finally do check his ID.
Hey, watch how funny this is. Go ahead, look at it. No, don't hate me. Look at it. Oh, what does that say? What does that say? Oh!
And it hits them like a ton of bricks.
The officers reluctantly comply, only to discover that this seemingly ordinary man is in fact an FBI agent. The man, now in control, demands a supervisor, who arrives looking visibly shaken. The tables have turned, and the once confident officers are now the ones on edge.
And I'm gonna file a report on you, and you. Because you guys are all stupid.
Realizing the gravity of their mistake. You see how quickly the tables can turn when assumptions are made? Here's why you should never judge a book by its cover. The next officer also needs to learn a similar lesson. This is Officer Ortiz, the cop who thought he had the upper hand until he met his match. Enter a savvy young black man, armed not with weapons, but with knowledge of his rights.
Now, do you have a search warrant to be on my property?
Okay. I do not, okay?
Okay, so...
But, listen to me, alright? If you can just provide this information for me, your IDs, if you live here...
I'm not providing you nothing, man. Matter of fact, get off my property right now if you don't have a search warrant.
What starts as a potential case of racial profiling quickly turns into a legal lesson for the officers who underestimated him. As tensions rise, the man confidently challenges the officers, questioning the legal basis for their actions and leaving them scrambling for answers. The man asserts his right to privacy and demands a search warrant for access to his property. He educates the officers on the law, pointing out that failure to identify is only a crime when one is lawfully arrested, a fact seemingly lost on Officer Ortiz. As the officers try to pin him for suspicious behavior, the man skillfully exposes their lack of legal grounds, repeatedly challenging them to name a specific crime.
Sir, I'm
asking you nice.
And I was asking you nicely as well.
Hey, sir. All I'm saying, if you don't have a search warrant, paperwork to be on my property, what crime do you suspect?
The sheer absurdity of this whole encounter is just baffling. Despite Officer Ortiz's attempt to detain him, the man stands his ground, demanding a clear, legitimate reason for the detention. He continues to assert his rights, making it clear that he knows the law better than the officers do, serving as a beacon for knowledge for both of them and the audience about citizens' protection against unwarranted intrusion.
Name a penal code that I've committed. That is the crime. Name a crime that I committed. You hear me? Name a crime that I committed other than being black and walking down this driveway.
In the end, Officer Ortiz is left red-faced and defeated, forcing to retreat as he realizes he has no legal basis for his actions. It's a clear victory for the man who walks away knowing his rights and teaching a valuable lesson to those who try to infringe upon them. This is Jeff Pearson, the man who turned the tables on the cops in an exciting showdown. When they tried to slap a robbery charge on him, Jeff didn't bat an eye.
That's okay.
What am I under arrest for?
Well, like I said, I need to read your rights first. Obviously, the charge is robbery, okay? Yeah, I'll explain everything.
I'm under arrest for robbery?
You are, but let me read your rights real quick, okay? And then I'll explain it all to you. Is that okay?
Am I under arrest? He coolly countered, signaling he was no pushover. The cop stumbled over reading rights and charges, but Jeff wasn't about to let them off the hook without the full story. With a swagger that could rival any detective, Jeff saw right through their charade, demanding concrete information before engaging further. The cop, visibly uneasy, reluctantly revealed the supposed robbery charge.
Before we ask you questions, you must understand what your rights are. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in the court of law. Does that make sense? You've probably heard these before, haven't you? Does that make sense? Do you understand your rights?
Jeff, unimpressed, insisted his rights be recited first, just to make things official. As the officer fumbled, Jeff remained unfazed, refusing to back down. When asked if he understood, Jeff, with a hint of defiance, replied yes, making it crystal clear he knew his rights. Despite the cop's attempts to throw him off balance and trample his rights, Jeff stood firm.
Okay, good cop.
No, usually I'm the prick.
You look like the prick.
I am.
Jeff, do you understand your rights? Yes or no?
When pressed again if he understood his rights, Jeff delivered a line that left the officers speechless. No, usually I'm the P word. You look like the P word. Always staying ahead of the game, Jeff also demanded a lawyer, but the cops, thinking they could outmaneuver him, pressed on. After 12 hours of this nonsense, Jeff walked out, having outwitted the detectives at every twist and turn. In this next bizarre event in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, Brian Gold, a resident, found himself caught in a poolside drama. While enjoying a swim in his apartment complex's pool, another resident, Ivanova, demanded that he change his swim course. Her reason? Nothing, really. This is classic Karen behavior. Refusing to bow to such entitled demands, Mr. Gold stood his ground and continued his swim undeterred.
Security footage from his apartment complex showing what happened. He says what was supposed to be a call to the police for help turned out to be anything but. You're watching surveillance video Ryan Gould sent us from the Sable Ridge Apartments in Palm Beach Gardens on May 10th.
Despite their attempts to swim as they pleased, the two ended up colliding, sparking a heated argument. Feeling challenged, Ivanova called her husband, Benedetto Salvia, to the scene. Salvia, also feeling a sense of entitlement, confronted Mr. Gold, even revealing a firearm in a misguided attempt to assert authority. Mr. Gold calmly dialed 911, confident in his ability to handle the situation. Officer Bethany Guerrero of Palm Beach Gardens Police Department arrived, accompanied by another officer, and approached Mr. Gold with an air of superiority, commanding him to keep his hands out of his pockets. Asserting his innocence, Mr. Gold maintained that he had not committed any crime.
Bethany Guerrero walked towards Gould, pulled out her gun, and pointed at him. He lies down on the pavement wearing just swim trunks.
And I was in fear of my life so much that, I immediately just on the hot pavement, belly down. I did not want this lady in any way to think that, I was any threat to her. It was terrifying.
Gould says this all started when he was swimming laps at the pool, when a woman and man came up to him asking him to move.
However, Officer Guerrero insisted on compliance in a tone that left no room for argument. Despite his protests, Mr. Gold reached into his pocket to retrieve his cell phone, triggering Officer Guerrero's escalation of the situation. Officer Guerrero pointed her firearm at Mr. Gold, ordering him to the ground and ultimately handcuffing him. The entire incident was captured by surveillance footage, showing Mr. Gold's calm demeanor as he innocently stepped back, hands at his sides. At the moment, Officer Guerrero dramatically drew her firearm.
Recorded on video and audio. Okay. So if you're an ICE agent, I appreciate that. But that way, he's gonna talk you into some tickets when you talk to people like that.
And another police department. This dispute, stemming from a past incident involving a pursuit, has escalated into a full-blown feud. As tensions between the two law enforcement agencies reach a boiling point, the feud threatens to disrupt law enforcement efforts. On to the next one. In the next scenario, a police officer encounters a man who boldly declares himself to be an FBI agent. The man confidently presents what appears to be legitimate credentials, but the officer, skeptical of the claim, decides to verify it with the station. Tensions mounts as the station's response reveals that the man is not an FBI agent, but rather associated with a wiring company.
Advanced Wiring Company.
Do you work for a wiring company?
Further.
Okay.
This casts a shadow of suspicion over the encounter, leaving the officer perplexed about the man's true intentions and how he obtained the officer's official contact information. Despite the man's attempts to clarify the situation, the officer decides to detain him, though he refrains from immediately using handcuffs.
Who called me here, sir?
Suspicions. In a shocking turn of events, the man offers to show his vehicle's registration, but the officer declines, choosing to wait for his supervisor to arrive.
Supervisor.
Would you like to see the registration, sir? I don't really want anything from you at this point. My supervisor's on the way. Excellent.
The story reaches a dramatic climax when the police captain engages in radio communication, revealing the man's true identity as Special Agent Haddon from Jacksonville. The officer, initially skeptical of the man's claims, is left speechless. In another bizarre twist of fate, two undercover officers in Birmingham found themselves in a conversation that accidentally revealed their true identities as police officers. The conversation, which initially centered around topics like farmers' rights and enforcement practices, especially regarding family court orders, quickly took a surprising turn.
Right, people, here's a police officer. Just go and clarify a few things with him. How you doing? You all right? Can I clarify a few things, please? Rights. What farmers have? Pardon?
These officers, known for their secretive operations, now had to navigate the discussion carefully to avoid disclosing specific case details. Maintaining a facade, they casually brushed off probing questions with vague responses, all the while acutely aware of the ongoing recording capturing every word. Oh, and after all, in their line of work, they know someone's always watching. Despite the persistent prodding for answers, the officers deftly avoided divulging any incriminating information.
Rights. What fathers have? What rights do fathers have? Well, you're policing, yeah?
I don't think we can comment on your current court case, can we?
What do you mean? No, not
given
my...
the fact that you're recording it, I'm sure you don't want us to breach data protection by divulging.
No, I'm saying...
So I don't want to answer any questions.
Confidently asserting the public nature of the conversation, which ended up inadvertently exposing two undercover officers, revealing their true identities as police officers. As the dialogue progressed, it became evident that these two officers were selectively enforcing court orders, rigorously enforcing non-molestation orders, while negligently handling contact orders from family courts. Despite their attempts to mask their identities, their arrogance and disregard for certain inquiries ultimately led to them being exposed. The next video captured an intense confrontation between a police officer and a man who identifies himself as a federal agent. The situation quickly escalates as the officer aggressively demands the man to show his hands and provide ID.
Hands! I need to see some ID! Get on the ground!
The man obeys, but he lets the cop know that he's a federal agent.
Federal agent. Get on the ground! I'm a federal agent.
Even after the man complies and presents his federal agent badge, the officer's hostility only intensifies. Ignoring the man's attempts to clarify his identity, the officer draws his gun and orders the man to the ground, displaying a scary level of aggression. As more officers arrive at the scene, the man, realizing the gravity of the situation, reluctantly follows the officer's commands and lies down.
I have a medical condition. We're gonna get air to you. Get your legs in. Get your legs in. We're closing this door. Sir. Get your legs in. I need air. Sir, please, call an ambulance. I'm asking for an ambulance. You got a medic coming. Get in the car.
Despite the man's cooperation and efforts to explain his status as a Fed agent, the officers remain undeterred in their mistreatment. The officers then proceed to arrest the man, despite his pleas for understanding and requests for medical assistance due to a pre-existing condition. The officers disregard his appeals and continue their aggressive actions. Some cops might simply have no regard for others' well-being. They ended up using a taser to force him into their vehicle, ignoring his desperate pleas for help. And that's the end of today's video. If you enjoyed our content, hit the like button and subscribe to enjoy more videos from us. Until next time.